Tracy Sable tonight on EWTN News Nightly Photo Finish. We have team coverage on midterm election results with many races still too close to call. The unborn on the ballot. How measures on abortion fared in 5 states. A new step. What the Holy Father is saying about Christian-Muslim relations. And witness to the homeless. We speak with the artist of a sculpture blessed today by the Holy Father. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight, the midterm elections. It is still too close to call in several key races to determine the control of the U.S. House and the Senate. Both Democrats and Republicans are hanging on to hopes of winning narrow majorities. And right now in the House, Republicans have 206 seats of the 218 needed for a majority. Democrats with 179 seats. And in the Senate, there are 49 Republicans and 48 Democrats. We are awaiting the winners for Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Georgia will be a runoff election next month. And we have team coverage tonight. White House correspondent Owen Jensen is on the North Lawn with reaction from President Joe Biden. We will also get analysis from Catholic news agency's Edie Heipel regarding abortion on the ballot in 5 states. But we begin tonight with Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales with that Republican surge that wasn't. Eric.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't a Republican surge there, Tracy. You know, Republicans were hoping that this red wave would actually just run across the country, but unfortunately it just never appeared. As we mentioned, Republicans need 218 seats to win majority in the House, and right now they are well short of that, but that's not stopping House Leader Kevin McCarthy from being able to try to put a positive spin on the election results.
The American people are ready for a majority that will offer a new direction, that will put America back on track. Republicans are ready to deliver it.
But with several dozen House races still undecided, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi insists control of the House is still up in the air. She said in a statement, quote, "While many races remain too close to call, it is clear that House Democratic members and candidates are strongly outperforming expectations across the country." Meanwhile, a key pickup for Democrats in the Senate, Pennsylvania's Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman defeated Dr. Mehmet Oz.
We held the line. I never expected that we were going to turn these red counties blue, but we did what we needed to do.
The GOP also falling short in New Hampshire and Colorado, but Republicans held Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio, where J.D. Vance defeated Democrat Congressman Tim Ryan.
I will never forget where I came from, and I will never forget the great people of Ohio. Thank you for this honor to serve you. I'll fight for you every day.
Tight races in Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia could take days, if not weeks, to decide.
We're in a fight, are we not? We're in a fight. But hey, God is a good God, is he not? Yeah. And he put us here for a reason. And we're here to win this election, are we not?
We will hear from the people who have given me the great honor of my life, representing you in the United States Senate, and we will move forward together.
Because Georgia election law requires a majority to win, that race is headed to a runoff election, which will take place December 6th. Now, bottom line, when you take a far back look at this election, one thing's for sure, we are still a country that is divided. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
President Joe Biden made dozens of calls to Democratic candidates across the country who won their elections. He watched the results unfold from the White House last night and early this morning while huddling with advisors. White House correspondent Owen Jensen continues our team coverage tonight.
Hi, Tracy. As the dust settles and the new political landscape begins to take shape here in Washington, D.C. and across the nation, today President Biden went before the cameras.
Less than 24 hours after the polls closed, President Joe Biden reacts to the latest midterm election results.
While the press and the pundits are predicting a giant red wave, it didn't happen.
Late last night on Twitter, President Biden posted a picture of himself congratulating Democratic candidates. Turns out high inflation and the president's low approval ratings did not inflict the huge defeat of Democrats that some predicted. Still, White House aides have been drawing up contingencies should Republicans take control of one or both chambers of Congress. And in Florida, a big night for Governor Ron DeSantis.
After 4 years, the people have delivered their verdict. Freedom is here to stay.
The possible Republican presidential contender even won Florida's Miami-Dade County, an overwhelmingly Hispanic former Democratic stronghold.
Thanks to the overwhelming support of the people of Florida, we not only won election, we have rewritten the political map.
And even if President Biden was not on the ballot, his first 2 years in office were.
Regardless of what the final tally in these elections show, and there's still some counting going on, I'm prepared to work with my Republican colleagues.
President Biden will soon shift his focus back to international events. He's flying to Egypt tomorrow to attend the UN Summit on Climate Change. And then it's on to Cambodia for a summit with Southeast Asian leaders. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Ballot initiatives to protect access to abortion and even expand it passed across the nation yesterday. This includes the states of Michigan, California, and Vermont, where proposed constitutional amendments to advance abortion passed with flying colors. By the same token, voters in Kentucky and Montana said no to pro-life measures in their states. And joining us tonight with more is Edie Heipel, political correspondent for Catholic News Agency. Edie, great to see you tonight. Pro-life groups were really hoping for a landslide, but that's not exactly what happened. What can you report, and were there any surprises?
Right. Well, as you know, it certainly did not seem that the predicted red wave did play out as many pollsters, pundits, and certainly pro-lifers hoped it would be. Especially in regards to the ballot initiatives, we saw in 5 states across the country that abortion won, even in typically pro-life states like Kentucky and Montana, which shot down protections for bans on partial birth abortion, for example, or treating an unborn child born alive after an abortion procedure. So it really was a night of crippling defeat in terms of the ballot initiatives. But there is hope in terms of what we can look ahead towards a hopeful majority of Republicans in the House.
And Edie, what do you think it was about the messaging, especially in battleground states, that you think really spoke to voters, specifically those pro-abortion voters?
Well, one thing we're seeing specifically in battleground states, Republican candidates who refuse to be bold on the issue of abortion, who refuse to come out with a stance, who were wary of making their position clear and going on offense on the pro-life message, that enabled a lot of Democrats to take control of manipulating the media and spreading disinformation, as well as the ballot initiatives themselves were often confusingly worded. But I will add to that, too, I think our country has a long way to go in terms of moral high ground on this issue. It seems really that many Americans are divided on the issue of abortion. And really, it's just a sign of our country turning away from God, turning away from truth on the issue and giving into such an evil culture of death in our country. So I think all those factors, but also underlyingly so, just the temperature and moral compass of our country right now.
Yeah, indeed. As we reported earlier, Republicans really seem poised to win back the House, albeit not on the scale that they were hoping for. That said, what do you think will happen? I mean, do you think they'll now be able to maybe put a stop to President Biden's pro-abortion agenda?
Right. Well, it certainly seems that Republicans will hold control of the House, which is certainly good news for the time being. It will handcuff Biden and the Democrat Party from pushing through, for example, the Women's Health Protection Act, which would enshrine radical unlimited abortion in the country, and go much farther than Roe v. Wade by striking down all pro-life laws across the country. So with Republicans having the majority in the House, which right now it looks very hopeful that they will maintain that, at least the Biden administration and Democrats will be held back from the time being on passing some of this radical legislation.
Edie, we're almost out of time, but quickly, if you could sum it up, what do you think these results mean for the pro-life cause going forward?
Well, I would say most overwhelmingly, I think Ron DeSantis, obviously in Florida, gave a clear pathway forward for how the Republican Party and conservatives need to fight on the cultural issues. DeSantis, with an overwhelming win and his track record, has proven that fighting on the cultural issues do matter, that taking a bold stance and making promises that will fight the cultural battles, but then actually fulfilling those promises is key to leading the pro-life movement forward and taking our country back to a country that we're proud of, a country that fears God, and a country that protects all of our vulnerable citizens from the unborn to everyone else.
Edie, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Pleasure as always.
Thank you.
And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including continued reaction to yesterday's midterm election. Plus, we'll examine the Pennsylvania Senate race between John Fetterman and Dr. Mehmet Oz. And later, we'll speak to a Canadian artist whose sculpture was blessed this morning by the Pope. Thanks for staying with us. A triumphant night for Pennsylvania Democrat John Fetterman after the new senator-elect squared off in one of the most heated and most watched races in the entire country. Fetterman beat opponent Dr. Mehmet Oz, managing to flip a Republican-held seat even as he continues to recover from a stroke. Fetterman now vowing to be the Democrats' 51st vote and fight for issues like abortion access and same-sex marriage. And with us tonight is Dr. Paul Kengor, author and professor of political science at Grove City College in Pennsylvania. Paul, great to be with you today. A lot to get to,
Thanks,
but
Teresa.
first, your reaction to last night's results, both in Pennsylvania and across the country.
Well, the Pennsylvania result is really shocking. I mean, everybody's trying to assimilate it. I did an earlier nationally syndicated talk show, and the host was out of Chicago, and he said, "I don't get this. How did this happen?" And Fetterman is he's an odd candidate to start with, right? His campaigning style, what he looks like, campaigning in a hoodie. He's politically very far to the left on all the different cultural issues. And then, of course, what happened in May during the Democratic primary, he had a stroke. And he's been, this is not an insult or a name calling, he's been cognitively impaired. He had to use a teleprompter during the debate with Oz. And it's probably, looking back, Tracy, at exactly what happened, it seems to be to Fetterman's benefit that there was a lot of early mail-in voting. And because those ballots came in before the debate, had all the voting happened after the debate, like it probably should have, on Election Day, November 8th, I mean, Fetterman's been down in the polls to Oz ever since that debate. But the early voting probably made the difference. And so you have somebody who is going to be going into the Senate, which is the premier debating institution in America, as it has been since the founding, who really can't debate and has significant cognitive issues. It's strange. It's really kind of surreal.
Yeah, it is very curious for sure. Another thing I want to bring up, Fetterman said that his race was fought for, quote, every job that was lost and every factory closed. However, he did previously say that he did not support fracking and basically would ban it. Furthermore, he defends Democrats' pledge to put coal miners out of work. I want to get your thoughts on that and the type of impact those policies would have on Pennsylvania's economy.
Yeah, it'd be devastating for the Pennsylvania economy. And he was asked about fracking during that debate, and he said that he opposed it, and then he said that he supported it, all in about 10 seconds. And in fact, he started that debate by saying, "Hello, everybody. I'm John Fetterman. Good night," and said good night to everybody, and then closed the debate when the debate moderator asked the two candidates, who do you prefer, the Steelers or the Eagles? And Oz, who's from Eastern PA, said the Philadelphia Eagles. And then Fetterman paused and kind of said, I might have been reading off the teleprompter, that he supports the Steelers, which he would. He's from Braddock, Pennsylvania. But again, that comes back to the fracking point. A lot of his supporters were angered by his answer, but a lot of them also, Tracy said, well, he's confused, and mentally he's just not there. And maybe he doesn't really know right now what he supports, or at least at this moment in the debate can't articulate it. All of which is a good reason why he probably shouldn't have been voted for on Tuesday. But he got enough votes, and now Pennsylvania, which I wrote a piece on this for National Catholic Register, maybe people could check it out. Pennsylvania was a staunch pro-life state. I mean, we're the state of Governor Bob Casey Sr. of Planned Parenthood v. Casey. We were the state of Rick Santorum, one of the leading pro-life voices in the Senate. And now we have Bob Casey Jr., who's Catholic and is no longer pro-life, very clearly. He has a very pro-choice voting record. We have John Fetterman, who's really extreme on abortion. And we have Josh Shapiro, the Democrat, who's now replaced Tom Wolf, the Democrat, who used to be an escort for Planned Parenthood clinics. So Pennsylvania, which was this staunch pro-life state, is really, at least in terms of the governor and the two senators, it's not there anymore. And I think that's a loss just not for Pennsylvania and the pro-life movement, but nationally for the pro-life movement.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, I grew up there. It really has changed a lot. Running out of time, but quickly, Paul, what do you think's changed?
Well, it's a good question. I think it's the Democratic Party. And, Ronald Reagan famously said he didn't leave the Democratic Party left him. And people who've remained in it, including Bob Casey Jr., who came out, Tracy, amazingly in June after the Dobbs decision and publicly said that he was against the Dobbs decision, which affirmed his father in Planned Parenthood v. Casey. So they're at the point today where the Democratic Party has become so staunchly pro-choice on the abortion issue that you could count literally on one hand and maybe even subtract 2 or 3 fingers, I don't know, the number of pro-life Democrats in the entire Congress. So a lot of these people in the party that are the elected legislators have drifted along with the party culturally on the abortion issue and other cultural, social issues as well.
Yeah, a lot to unpack here. I wish we had more time. We have to leave it right there. Always so great to be with you and get your insights. Thanks so much, Dr. Ken Gore.
All right. Thanks, Tracy. Take care.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, the latest in charges against a Hong Kong Catholic businessman. We'll tell you who will be defending Jimmy Lai in court. Plus, the Holy Father talks about his recent trip to Bahrain and his mission for more dialogue among people of all faiths. We are back tonight. A Hong Kong court will allow a veteran British lawyer to defend pro-democracy publisher Jimmy Lai at his upcoming trial. Lai's counsel will be Timothy Owen, who specializes in criminal and human rights law. The Catholic founder of the now defunct Apple Daily is facing charges under the Beijing-imposed national security law. The trial begins next month. Pope Francis says his trip to Bahrain was, quote, a new step towards more dialogue between Christians and Muslims.
Per questo il motto del viaggio era pace in terra agli uomini di buona volontà.
At his weekly talk to pilgrims at the Vatican, the Holy Father said his 4-day visit was a reminder of the importance of dialogue, adding that talking with one another is the oxygen of peace. The Pope also encouraged all faithful to expand their horizons by getting more acquainted with one another. Well, finally tonight, a few minutes before the Holy Father's weekly talk to pilgrims, he blessed a statue in St. Peter's Square. The statue highlights the plight of the homeless, and it was done by Canadian artist Timothy Schmalz in conjunction with the Vincentian Order's 13 Houses campaign. The initiative will provide material and spiritual help to the homeless around the world. And that artist, Timothy Schmalz, joins us now from Rome. Timothy, great to see you again. Can you tell us more about this new sculpture and how and why you became involved with the 13 Houses campaign?
The sculpture is part of a project I've been working on for a long time, interpreting, visually translating the scriptures. This inspiration came from Isaiah 58, where the idea, which is so profound, is it not our fast to clothe the naked? When I heard that, I thought that must be a sculpture. I have to bring this idea out to the world. So I created a sculpture which really visually just basically suggests that it is our spiritual duty to help the marginalized in the world. So I have a homeless person, a naked person, being covered by a blanket by a dove, the symbol of the Holy Spirit. And what I love about the piece is it is shocking, and it's just like when you see it, it's phenomenal, because you have a homeless person being covered by the Holy Spirit, and you have it right in front of you, three-dimensional. And so this is a phenomenal design that is going to be used by the DePaul Society to promote their organization.
Oh, that is incredible. Speaking specifically about the sculpture, I'm curious, how long did it take to complete, and where exactly will it be placed?
The sculpture took a year to create, and it follows several different epic projects. I just recently created a sculpture on the theme of human trafficking that borrowed the text from Isaiah 58, let the oppressed go free. And the sculpture really was a piece that I took my time working on. It's very, very simple. It's not like some of my complex pieces with 100 figures in. But it did take me a year to create it. What I hope to do is create many different casts for the DePaul Society so they can place it in different areas around the world. The first one here, blessed in the Vatican, will be placed in Rome.
Incredible. And what are some of the other projects that you'll be working on in the future?
I am working on so many projects. It's just absolutely unbelievable. One of the projects I just concluded was sculpting the complete Divine Comedy, Dante's Divine Comedy, which walks you through hell, purgatory, and paradise. It's the first time in 700 years that every single chapter of the Divine Comedy has been sculpted. And that's 100 different sculptures. That is right now being installed at St. Michael's College, University of Toronto. Hopefully in spring we'll have the dedication. It's a big project. But I'm actually right now exploring and sculpting Laudato Si, Pope Francis's encyclical about the environment. And I have the principal sculpture of St. Francis embracing the world. And from this is going to go visual interpretations of his encyclical. And that is fascinating for me, because I have to really study and understand the text. I have to understand the writings to actually create sculptures, almost translate them into visuals, so people, in a sense, can read with their eyes. My human trafficking sculpture, Let the Oppressed Go Free, which highlights Saint Bakita, the patron saint of human trafficking, is right now on its way to Texas, where it's going to be showcased right on the Mexican-American border, and it's going to do a cross-American tour and finally end up installed at Catholic University of America. And this project, I kid you not, it was my obsession for more than a year to give visibility to these people, these poor souls that are forgotten, invisible, and buried. And so I have a lot going on right now, but today, having Pope Francis bless my new sculpture that celebrates the Wednesday before the World Day of the Poor, the idea that it's our spiritual duty to help the poor. An awesome day.
Absolutely. And Timothy, I have to say, I'm always so amazed by all of your pieces. They are incredible, really incredible. Thank you for speaking to us about all this. We appreciate it. Great to have you on. And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night, and God bless.